does how do we measure an electron? Say for example, it's very difficult to understand an electron. It's very difficult to measure an electron. So electron can be measured in terms of its properties. So okay, mathematically we can formulate that okay, a property, so say one property can be color of an electron. This is just a simple example we are giving. So then we can make an instrument which measures color. Color is black white. So as you can see in the figure here, you pass an electron. If it is white, it comes out from the white end. If it is black, it will come out from the black end. Similarly, another property can be hardness and softness. So if the electron is a soft electron, it comes out straight. If the electron is a hard electron, it goes up. So hard goes this way, soft goes this way. So this way we have defined two properties of an electron. This is just how, this is so suppose there are these two properties we have defined and we have made two tools or two filters. You put a electron, if it is white, it comes this way, that way, it's color and hardness. Now let's play with it. So here it's showing that okay, from down you are giving an input, you are inputting an electron. So from the first, so if you input okay, say many electrons actually, so those who are white will come out this way. Those who are white will go this way, yeah, and those who are black will go up, right? So from the first color filter, 50% of the electrons will come out as white. They will go horizontal, and 50% of electrons will come out black, they will go up, right? So now we have put a second color filter. So when you put a second color filter, black electron remains a black electron, it goes up. So therefore at the very top we have 100% output. But whereas in the second filter there is no electron which will come out white, or no subatomic particle which will come out white. So this experiment shows that okay, there is this repeatability of color. This happens in quantum mechanics. Repeatability. So we have given a property that we have made a filter, right? We have given a property, we have made a filter, that filter is repeatable. Any times you measure, black will be black, white will be white. Okay? So this is the science we have developed till now. Okay. So now we are playing with hardness filter and color filter. So we give an input from below. 50% of the electrons will be hard and 50% will be soft. See, this is where probability is coming. Because electron can be anything. It can be hard also, soft also. So half of them will be hard, half of them will be soft. Probability theory. So 50% will go up. Now the second filter is color filter. So it's so the question being asked is that okay, of all the hard electrons, how many will be white and how many will be black? So the output which is seen and what is logical also, hardness should have nothing to give and take with color. So 50% of them should be black, 50% of them should be white, which is what we can see in the result. So this logic and the experiment come together, good understanding. The understanding is what? Color is color, hardness is hardness. There is no correlation between the two. By hardness बोला है तो hard can be any color, and any color can be hard or soft. So black electrons can be hard also, soft also. There is no correlation between the two. So much, so good. So this way, the logical है. This is logical, and this is what is experimentally found also, right? So this is logical, and we have found this experimentally also. Now, so now this is the experiment. So there are three filters we have put. So the electron is coming. First, it is going through the color filter. Then it is going to the hardness filter, and then it is going through the color filter again. तो बोलेंगे ठीक है, ये तो बहुत common sense है, simple है ये. Is it not? The logic says what? That first of all you have put an input, 50% black आएंगे, 50% white आएंगे. The black ones go up, so the black ones are entering the hardness filter. Black ones, so black electrons, 50% will be hard, 50% will be soft, right? So now we may say ठीक है, तो अब second filter के बाद we have black electrons which are hard, is it not? और फिर से color filter लगाया तो all should pass vertically, है कि नहीं? सभी black होने चाहिए, white end से कुछ बाहर नहीं आना चाहिए, is it not? Logically this is what we may presume. Logically this is what we may presume, is it not? that okay, color. So we know okay, color and hardness have nothing to give and take with each other. They don't have any correlation. But then okay, so color filter, hardness filter, color filter, is it not? So we have measured color again. So logically, at the very top, we should get 100% black electrons and nothing should come out as white from the third filter. But experimentally it is observed that 50% of the electrons come out black and 50% of the electrons come out white. You may say, ये क्या हो गया? 50% black आ गए, 50% white आ गए. So this is interesting. So this is a very interesting phenomenon which is observed. कि ये तो so that means what? That means that so this is an interesting observation which has been observed. There's no explanation actually, but this is the observation. Very interesting. That means what? That the hardness filter changed the color. That means after the hard electrons actually so it's as if the hardness filter has tampered with the color actually, or you can say the electrons chose to rearrange their color, because the first time they were measured color. So if you only keep measuring color, that's all fine, but then but then you measure another property, that is hardness, and then again you want to measure color, then the electron chooses to be different. Just ठीक है, अभी मैं white हूँ, पहले मैं black था, so the electron changes party here actually. So this is interesting. So this goes to show that that we cannot measure hardness and color together actually. So we are taking so let's make 2 units of this. So here we understand. So let's make 2 units of this. That means we are let's make 2 units of this and combine them. Okay. So we make 2 units of this and combine them. So now we are seeing okay that we make 2 units of this and we combine them. And then see what happens. Then see what happens. Okay. So the meaning of hardness and color are 2 properties which we have described just to explain the context. So I am not going into the technicalities of the quantum mechanical properties. This is a hypothetical property which we have defined. So we are saying that okay, let's try to understand if one property is color, one property is hardness. Then how do you explain the two? How do you explain the two? So yes, physically there is a nomenclature to these properties, but I am not going into that. So so as to exclude the complexity of it and just understand, to get a feeling of how these particles behave. How these particles behave. How these particles behave. So let's say now we have these. Now we make 2 units of this. We have say black electrons which are coming out. Now black electrons are coming out. So we say okay, let's say this, that then let's say we replicate this experiment. We take out black electrons we pass through a hardness filter. So 50% of them will be hard, 50% of them will be soft. Now let's say that these so now these hard and soft electrons like that, and hard electrons, soft electrons. Okay, so let's so both of them are going. So by putting some mirrors, let us combine both of them. Okay, so the hardness filter, the hard electrons, the soft electrons are here. Here are the soft electrons, here are the hard electrons. We combine both of them. When we combine both of them and then put the color filter, we will see that all electrons are still black. So we combine both of them. Now the interesting observation is this. Let's directly go to this. So that's what we were saying, that we combine hard and soft. When we combine and take the output, we will see that if we pass black electrons, then the output will be black when we do a color filter. So we combine and then put a color filter, we will have the output black. But suppose we block one of the pathways. Okay, we block one of the pathways. That means the soft particle path we block. So when we block one of the pathways and then as input we are giving a black electron and at the output we have put a color filter. Now, and then what is going to happen is that it's not going to be 100% black output. It will be 50% black, 50% white. That means this is really mind-boggling, because this shows, or this gives an indication that these small quantum particle, the particle which is going up, which is a hard electron, how this particle gets some sense that the soft passage is blocked. So therefore, some of them change their property from black to white. So you get a 50% black, 50% white, like that. Whereas if hard and soft both pathways were open and the electrons combined, and then we measured color, the black initially remained black. But when one of the paths is blocked, the electrons, the black electrons passing through the hardness filter, and then combining, some of them choose to change their color property and they become white. So this is a mind-boggling property. But what the sense of, the feel, what we want to give is that, so yes, there was this question that what does this hardness and color refer to? Actually, the hardness and color refers to the spin properties. The spin, so the spin magnetic vector in y direction and z direction. That's exactly what is color and hardness. It's one direction, the other direction, and they are not correlated with each other. That means they are completely disjoint. So that's what it means technically, but we obscured the technicalities just to give a feel. So the underlying feel is that these subatomic particles are behaving in a very personal sense. The sense is the question here, understand how does the small particle knows? Yes, the small particle does not know, but the super consciousness in which the small particle is behaving knows everything, and therefore there is this change of behavior which is completely inexplicable. So therefore many scientists are beginning to think that actually that the language of quantum mechanics is perhaps the language of relationships, and so the language of quantum mechanics may be the language of relationships. So how the surroundings relate with the situation and the situation relate with the state is the language of relationships. And maybe this is how we may be doing science. And that's why you can see that now, as so many scientists are thinking about this, the Vedas are already speaking about this. And yes, because there is God, the God stamp and presence is there in anything and everything in this world, actually. Therefore, to relate with anything in this world without accepting God, or without relating it with God, is a very incomplete dimension, actually. Is an incomplete dimension. So there is super consciousness. So that means that matter and spirit both start making sense when we bring in the super consciousness, which is the underlying factor which is the underlying root and fundamental behind the two. Now let's talk a little bit about the principle of superposition. So in quantum mechanics, a very interesting principle is the principle of superposition, actually. So now superposition is a very interesting principle, actually. So the principle of superposition says that actually a particle in one particular situation, so we saw examples, a particle in one particular situation, it gives a different output on measurement. Another situation, it gives a different output. So the theory in which it is explained is like this. It's called as superposition. That means it says that okay, the particle is not exactly in a state, but when you ask the particle to show something, the particle chooses to come in some state, which is what we were seeing actually before. So the particle chooses to come in a particular state. So this is This is superposition. So it's like saying that, okay, so suppose in layman's terms, if you want to give an example of superposition, it's like this. You can say that. So that means that intrinsically, electrons which were showing up as black and electrons which were showing up as white, both are the same. But some of them choose to show as white, some of them choose to show as black. And under the situation, the electron which in situation one who chose the electron which chose to be as white, in another situation it chooses to be black. This is superposition. So that means that the electron is not in one state or the other. There is no objectivity. It is very subjective. But when you question कि भाई एक बता दो ये हो या ये हो, then it says okay आज मैं black हूँ, or other time it says okay आज मैं white हूँ. Like that. This is called a superposition. And we understand, okay, this is personalism. Is it not? This is exactly what is personalism. Is it not? So, from the formulation perspective, so even quantum physicists or quantum mathematicians, they have figured it out that actually, the matrix of superposition, is not into objective state. You cannot objectify a state. ये black ही है, इतना % black है, इतना white है. You cannot specify that. Rather, what is said is that mathematically, they say okay, the measurement which is used, the measuring tool. So please mark this carefully because this is very interesting. This is the quantum physicist's observation, but this is a very important lesson. What we can learn from this also. So they say that it's quite interesting. They say that okay, that the tool which you use to measure, your tool is objective. So by your tool, you are forcing the quantum particle to say that okay, तुम ये हो या ये हो, एक चीज बताना. So that means what kind of tool you put in, the observation is going to be like that accordingly. तो उसमें से हाँ ये तो personalism है कि आप कैसे behave करेंगे, आप उसी तरह से respond करेंगे. तो behavior also happens, is it not? So suppose so what kind of tool you use it, or what kind of measurement you use it. I mean, this situation will ignite the behavior, is it? Like say, suppose if somebody talks to me very nicely, somebody says or somebody glorifies me, talks to me nicely, I will feel good about it. So it will so that tool may help me in bringing out a good response. So the tool may help me in bringing about a good response, is it not? But if somebody speaks in a provocative, insulting manner on the first go, so suppose if somebody comes and requests, okay, can you extend for me? I may think about extending. If he is polite, humble, genuine, so it will provoke me to behave, and to choose to extend. But if somebody is speaking in a very challenging way, insulting way, he says, okay, you've got to do this, then that may not excite a good behavior out of me, is it not? So it's a measurement operator. We can see in behavior actually. So therefore, in this we can see this in behavior. No person is a good person, bad person. Good and bad is objectivity in one sense actually. So it is what setting is being used. If the person is dealt with nicely, his good side is brought about, is it not? If a person is dealt with in an exploitative sense, his ugly side is brought out, is it not? So that's the point. That is the point. So this is basically, in a very layman's terms, the mind's matrix also behave in that same way. The mind's matrix also behave in the same way. So it is a tool, it is the operator which is used actually. And we can understand, so in life that tool is our motivation, our attitude with which we interface reality. If that attitude is good, it brings about good realities. So therefore the Vedic Shastras are talking about, okay, no person is eternally a bad person. When you see a person in relation as a part and parcel of God, and when you try to help that person as a part and parcel of God, help him to connect to the divine, then that brings about the good in the person. but simply an exploitative perspective to bring about the bad in the person. So this is the point. So quantum physicists also talk about that in this way, the tool, the measurement operator which is used is like pinpricking the quantum particle to say either you go here or you go there. But reality is not this here and there actually. The reality is deeper like that. It is explained as proposition, but we see that the reality is not objective. The reality is subjective. The reality is very much dependent on the state of the situation. So in this way, Bhagavad Gita defines or Bhagavad Gita describes that matter and spirit both. When Bhagavad Gita describes about the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. That is the inherent characteristics of people, thought processes, actions, and materials as well. That which is in goodness fluffs positivity, fluffs mature understanding. That which is in passion fluffs narrow-mindedness, fluffs aggressiveness, and that which is in ignorance fluffs madness, fluffs destructive behaviors. So Bhagavad Gita explains that people are in goodness, passion, ignorance. Thoughts are in goodness, passion, ignorance. Actions are in goodness, passion, ignorance. But matter is also in goodness, passion, ignorance. There are foods and mode of goodness, foods and mode of passion, foods and mode of ignorance. So there is this. So the state is being talked about. That the state is being talked about. Bhagavad Gita is talking about that. Okay, when you see matter from the purview of exploiting it, deriving sense enjoyment out of it, then that matter takes a toxic form, and that toxin will harm us. Therefore, no. So that's the point. But when we relate with matter or interface matter with the purview of, with the heart of making an offering to Krishna, making an offering for God, for humanity, then that same matter becomes non-toxic. And therefore, it doesn't overwhelm us, it doesn't blind us, it doesn't intoxicate us. So, toxic effects we can see. When one runs after a sense object, if he gets it, his greed is fueled. If he doesn't get it, his anger is fueled. In both cases, his lust is anyways fueled. That's a toxic effect. But the same matter, if one touches with a heart to offer it to God, then none of these lust, greed, anger are going to increase. So we can see that there is, so in this way, we can see that there is this deeper dimension, and therefore this world cannot be understood without accepting and acknowledging this deeper dimension.